formula samples. There is, in fact, and I'm going to get into this later about some of the global context of talking about infant formula and artificial baby milk, is that there is actually an international code on the marketing of breast milk substitutes. And that was passed several decades ago. The United States never signed it. There's lots of international codes that the United States never signed. But it's about what is appropriate and ethical to do with breast milk substitutes. Nobody's ever saying that they shouldn't be made at all, because obviously some babies need to be fed with them. But part of the code is they should never be directly marketed to the population. There should be 0 ads for them. That they should never be given as free samples to mothers and families or healthcare providers. And other ones are more specific to a specific context, like whether it's a place that has an unhealthy water supply or this or that. But those are kind of the basics. That basically there should be no free samples and there should be no ads. So this is from Sharp Mary Birch here in town when my cousin had her baby. And so yeah, in my practice we adhere to that. We don't give free stuff and we don't advertise baby formula. And speaking of, what's in it and just giving it out, first of all, if you get this in your bag, and my cousin was a breastfeeding mom. She left the hospital breastfeeding. Her baby didn't have any formula in the hospital, but she still got this little handy carry bag donated by Similac, which is Ross Industries, that has this in it as a just in case. So just in case you need it. So what does that do to somebody's confidence in themselves as a breastfeeding mother to have this go home, just in case? I know you're trying to do this breastfeeding thing, which is great, and breast is best, and obviously that's most healthy. But just in case, let's get you started on our product. So that's Exhibit A, which is advertising and promotion. A lot of this promotion is about samples. And you'll notice, any of you who are parents, or if somebody like myself, because I'm so involved in the work world, even though I'm not a parent, the advertising world thinks I'm a parent, and I get things in the mail like free sample coupons for formula and stuff like that, which I just put in a file and save for things like this. So what other questions about food justice? Other just kind of general topics. There's stuff I came up with. The question of convenience, which is a big question when we're talking about food justice in general, is like Melinda was saying in the plenary, a lot of people don't want to go out and grow their own food and get their knees dirty and be on the ground, and especially growing organic food takes a lot of attention, manual labor, time, especially if you have small children or are currently pregnant. It's really hard to be out farming. So similarly, we can apply this to questions of people with small children, whether they're actually growing food or breastfeeding. The question of convenience is a complicated question, because on the one hand, it's convenient to go to the store and buy baby food, and it's convenient to go to the store and buy a breast milk substitute, and it's convenient to go to the store or to the fast food place and buy an entire meal, and it's cheap. But what are the flip sides about convenience? Like anyone who's had a reasonably successful breastfeeding course would say, actually when it comes right down to it, and it's the middle of the night and you're breastfeeding, it is way more convenient to be breastfeeding than to not be breastfeeding, because you don't have to go to the kitchen, make the bottle, whatever that whole process is. It's more convenient. So convenience, it's not a cut and dry, and most of these aren't cut and dry in any direction. We kind of alluded to money and how money plays out into this whole thing, but at the very bottom line, as we all know, healthy nutritional food, if you're going to purchase it, is more expensive. So just the cost of quality food. So that goes for certainly for baby food. If you're going to buy the organic baby food, it's going to be more expensive. If you are in your own home mashing up your own food and you're going to buy organic food to mash up as opposed to non-organic food to mash up, it's going to be more expensive. If you grow it in your own backyard, there's questions of the convenience and the time that it takes you, and certainly it's fulfilling, but there's certainly something involved involved in there. And it's generally inaccessible, largely inaccessible. When you're talking about breastfeeding as a baby's food, what are some of the money conversations that come up about that? And generally, largely cited as one of the major reasons that we don't breastfeed much in the U.S. and certainly don't breastfeed for very long. Work. Going back to work. Going back to work. Work. Going back to work. Having to work. Work. So, why just somebody just say it? What is the thing about work?
Well, children are not acceptable at work.
Children are not acceptable at work. Even if they're very quiet, very
cultures, yeah.
compact, and can be put in a sling and hauled around. Almost never. Occasionally.
Also, maybe your breasts are not acceptable.
Breasts also.
Depends on the workforce.
Yes. So, either way, breastfeeding is extremely rarely acceptable at work. There are very rare circumstances where this is a possibility, and in those cases, more power to that situation, and thank you to that company for letting it happen. But generally not acceptable at work. So if breastfeeding isn't acceptable at work, what are your options if you're going to continue to be a breastfeeding mom?
Pump.
Breast pump. Or have an extraordinarily flexible schedule and childcare such that you can leave breastfeed and come back. Which, again, is extremely, extremely unlikely given that we live in a society and culture where most people live far away from where they work, and then who's their childcare, and what's their transportation situation. That's probably not going to happen. So, basically, you've got pumping. So, we'll go to Exhibit B here. If anybody who has ever pumped before wants to comment on the ease, convenience, and enjoyability of pumping, please do.
And let's I thought of it, and I thought it was difficult. At first it was painful, and I just felt that I wasn't getting very much out. And there was no one helping. I think in the hospitals when I had children, there was very little support for breastfeeding in general. They just didn't work with you on those things.
One of the things that I didn't get at the beginning, I was always looking at, as a new mom, was like, okay, breastfeeding is the healthiest choice for my baby. It was all about the health, or that's best. But it took me almost a good 6 months to realize that that breastfeeding is a bonding with your child, and that now really clicked for me. And you don't bond with that pump. So, and also seeing, when I see a mom sticking a bottle and she's just kind of looking around, she's kind of staring around the room, and just that you're lacking the bonding, and that is what it really clicked for me, that our kids, if you don't bond, you have a lot of love for your child, but if you don't bond with them, that's that they feel that they're constantly missing. So the pump was, really, okay, it's just, you feel like a machine and just doing what you have to do.
Also, they're very costly if you want a good one. So, you get a free sample of formula, but you didn't get a free breast pump with, with baby's birth, which is too bad.
Absolutely. So, this particular pump, I bought at a garage sale just for things like this. It's actually a really nice pump, and if I ever have someone who needs it, we'll just buy the new plastic stuff, and the pump itself will still work. But I went online just to look at last night because I was doing this. See what they say about this one, and it says it's a very quiet pump. Okay, so here's our very quiet pump for when you're discreetly pumping at work. Okay, ready? I mean, it's not like a jackhammer, but not exactly something you can do in your cubicle without anyone knowing, right? And then, of course, last night, like I said, I don't have kids, but I have tried breast pumps before because as part of my job, I work with people breast pumping, and I figure I probably should, but I had people in my house try it out last night. Both male and female on different parts of their body, just like this, just to feel the suction, and they were like, "Ow!" So